Hello and welcome to Medium Shit Matters, Season 5, with me, Hannah McIntyre. How are you doing? Well, the longest intro to the podcast ever. I am so excited and so grateful to be back recording, but back to myself also. And as always, facing that kind of ego-led desire to delete previous seasons and start again. But in doing so would be, of course, denying the journey. And you can't do that, can you? Got to be true to the lumps and the bumps, because that's the inspiration for the podcast. Nobody else was talking about how bloody hard it was when I started this. So, as you know, I've taken quite a lot of time for me off and really had to surrender. And surrender is always, I think, going to be my nemesis. I'm a control freak. I'm a Capricorn. I thrive in the do. And I'd be lying if I hadn't spent quite a large proportion of time just pondering on why it is that my soul decided that I would need a life with so much surrender required, but equally come here and be the type of person that likes to be getting stuff done, whilst also, of course, knowing, as you're probably screaming at your device listening to this, that I create a lot of my own problems anyway. It's a tangled web we weave here, isn't it? But at this moment, I'm definitely feeling a return to me, a return to excitement. I'm really glad that I have made the decision to stop creating for creation's sake. And it's a bit like, if you've seen that 80s film Labyrinth, which I love, when she falls down the oubliette and gets grabbed by the helping hands. It feels a bit like that, if I'm honest. You know, the way that everything's dressed up these days, with these big corporations telling us all the time, gaslighting us, that they are helping us, and me feeling that I need to create to get the ball rolling. And actually that whole time I just needed to let go. So long may it last that I stay in this space where I do it because I want to do it, and not because a computer, a person, an algorithm, a book, the stories that are propagated all over social media by people who are playing that game force me down a route that isn't for me. Long may I stay creating when I feel aligned to. And that's true of this podcast too. I mean, I did amazingly on the figures last year for the podcast. It was nearly an increase of 50% downloads, which is pretty epic, if we're honest. You know, going from just over 100,000 downloads to 148,000 downloads last year is an incredible feat. But there's that part of me that is always looking for the figures and the numbers. And this is a real problem for somebody with a spiritual business, because I like the feeling when I'm in alignment. But there's also part of me that likes the numbers and beating the numbers. And I know if I just surrendered to it, they'd probably go up anyway. But finding that sweet spot between being motivated and hitting the targets and that satisfaction that I like, versus holding myself hostage to it and playing in that space. So my New Year's resolution this year is to focus on being of service. Service to spirit and service to myself. And the money thing for me is incredibly complex and difficult to navigate, as you know. and trying to find that space between wanting to be paid and wanting to be paid well for my work, wanting to work with the right people, but also remembering why I did this in the first place, why I became a medium. And it was to help people. So finding all of that in that tangled web, and I might not be being very eloquent right now. I feel like I'm really creaky and rusty at podcasting, but finding that space of not judging what I feel that I want to do, because there are so many people that I have exposed myself to, not like that, on social media. And remembering again, Spirit are talking to me in this moment about your energy and the responsibility that we all have to our own energy. You don't have to have anything in your energy that you don't want in there. I mean, yeah, there are exceptions to that rule. Already my human instantly pipes up with 100 different scenarios. Yes, but what if you've got a mother who's toxic, who's dying of cancer? But what if you've got this? What if you've got that? Yes, of course, there are exceptions to that rule. But with things like social media, you don't have to. You don't have to follow people that are shouting about their success if it's not in alignment with you. And I do think that I got caught up in the people who are the noisiest. And of course, the people who are the noisiest are the ones that are selling the pyramid scheme style projects, products. You know the things. Some of the stuff that I've been listening to over the last few months has been fascinating. In my time off, I really did try to expand my listening. And I will say this, there are some podcasts out there and videos out there that are incredibly hard to watch and hard to listen to. So I had a big break from anything sort of homeworky and work related. And then I went back and started trying to listen to other podcasts. I listened to one podcast. It was just awful. And maybe I'm being incoherent, and maybe I think, where do I want to start with this? So I've been listening to cautionary tales on the BBC Sounds app, which is nothing to do with spirit, but is to do with human psychology and why we make choices the way that we do, and what we can learn from the past. And I love it. My husband he's not interested in it. I played some of it in the car. He was like, not interested. I really find it fascinating. And one of the things that they have been talking about on there, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's that thing where you forget that people aren't coming from the same point of view as you, from the same knowledge base as you, where you forget that not everybody understands what you're talking about. And I know that I'm guilty of that. Having my book edited was really eye-opening when lovely Kate and Jay were going through it and saying, well, Hannah, you haven't explained the basics of this, you haven't explained the basics of that. And it's so funny because I have this worry all the time, especially on this podcast and obviously in the book too, and when I'm teaching, that I am repeating myself. It's like a bona fide fear. I don't want you guys to be like, oh my God, she's already said this. It's so dull. What a dullard. And so I've got that bit of me always piping up going, haven't you already said this? And one of the big lessons that I have had in 2023 is, so what if you have? So what if you have repeated it? Sometimes things bear repeating, and trusting myself in that process. And I'm still struggling with it. And I listened to a podcast the other day that was two people chatting And I think they'd had a previous conversation before they hit record. We all do that. I'm aware that, you like to do that and get your guests warmed up and get yourself warmed up and find some snippets to talk to people about. But it was just like two people. I'm going to do a joke TikTok about it at some point, where they were saying absolutely nothing to each other for half an hour. And it was almost nonsensical. And it was so funny because they go, well, we're moving into this new space and the feeling. And the other one would go, yes, the feeling. It's so funny you should mention that, because I was sitting here yesterday and I was talking to Spirit and they were talking about the feeling. And as I was moving in through that galactic starseed of the energy at this time, oh my galactic starseed, I can't believe you would mention that. And there's this ball of energy, this light, and we're in this yes, and it's coming from Christ consciousness with evolution. And I was, I would say humbly that I know quite a lot of stuff about spirit now. Not the more I learn, the more I know I don't know. So please don't think I've totally got wrapped up in my ego while I've been gone. But I know quite a lot of stuff. I can apply quite a lot of knowledge. It just didn't make any sense to me from beginning to end. They said so much, but said absolutely nothing. And I thought that was fascinating. It was also one of the things that has come up for me with spirit, and I might be doing a deep dive into this at some point, either this season or next season, but is the cults. I've been listening to a lot of cult things because I find them fascinating, and I was listening to, oh bugger it, this bodes well, doesn't it, that I've already, a very British cult. That's what I was listening to, a very British cult. And that is that weird funny line, just like Escaping Twin Flame Universe, where people are selling sort of a personal development / spirit pyramid scheme. And it really got me thinking about where the line is between cults and sales, because on a very British cult, they have got actual recordings of the sales techniques used by the actual people on the show, because somebody had access to the recordings. So it's fascinating. But I'll tell you this, some of the techniques that they used in their cult are the same techniques that I have been taught to do on marketing courses. I don't do them, but they're there. And I've always had this, what's wrong with me? Why won't you just do what's required of you? Do the sales. That person over there who's got a lot more followers than you, they've got that lot more followers than you because they will play the game and they're doing it. Look, you can see them doing it. And then I'd write a post or I'd do something and I'd think, oh no. I'd much rather be like a shop. And I know you have to advertise to get people into your shop, but I'd much rather be, if you're looking for spiritual development, then look and see what I'm doing and see if it works for you, rather than inboxing you and telling you. And I find it really hard, the whole thing, funnels, sales, the language we use. But I just thought that was really interesting, that I was listening to that podcast. Now, later it does get very dark. Don't get me wrong. It isn't just sales techniques. It really takes a turn. But for a good few episodes of that podcast, I was thinking about things that I've been told to do by marketing experts to take my business to the next level and increase my sales. And, we're listening to that on one hand and thinking it's a cult, But on the other hand, we are using those techniques because we know that they work. So the cults, the sales, the spirituality, the hierarchy, it's all melding away in there. And something I think that we all really, really need to be mindful of when we are out there navigating this journey. So yes, I'm starting season 5 a little bit ranty. What are you going to do about it? You've surely come to expect this by now. And if you haven't, nothing's changed. So I finally have got used to my medication that I told you guys I was going on. I have had a pretty colourful time with it. I'm not going to lie. I, after all my questions about physical mediumship and amazing stuff, because I've had so many migraines and I'm very, very exhausted from that, I've got I sleep separately from my poor husband, who is so lonely and sad that he's been so rejected by me. But I'm up in the night, or, I'm being sick, or there's this going on. So it was just easier to be in my own space. And I started taking my medication and all was tentatively good. I was in my good week to begin with, so couldn't really tell. I normally have 1 week a month where I can function very well, and then 3 weeks a month where I'm very unwell. So I've been sort of working through that in 2023. And so I started taking it. It just happened to be on my good week. And then after about 2 weeks on this medication, I was asleep and there was a noise in my bedroom and it woke me up. And I was sitting there in the dark, and I have got a street light outside my bedroom window. So it's not full darkness in my bedroom. I have to wear a mask because I like it really dark. My mask, I'd have been flailing around. My mask had come off and I could see. And I thought, what was that noise? And I looked around my room and there was a gigantic balloon in my room, covered in 50s. A white balloon with pink and grey and black 50s all over it, big round one, and streamers. And it was bouncing through the room. And I thought, oh, that's what woke me up. My husband has done this for my birthday. I clearly was just coming round and waking up, because that's not a logical train of thought. And I watched the balloon, and as I was watching it, I thought, well, that's weird. I'm not 50 yet. I'm only turning 43. And then I watched it some more as it was just sort of bobbing. And I thought, it's not my birthday for another week. Why has he done this now? And I lay in bed and watched it. And I watched it for a good long time. I'm not talking seconds. I'm talking, 5 minutes at least. And then as I watched it, I thought, I wonder if it's really there. And it bounced off the wall and popped and disappeared. And then I thought, I wonder if that was spirit. Was that spirit? And as I thought, was that spirit, my Alexa started talking to me in the middle of the night. And then I shit a brick and unplugged the Alexa. I nearly yeeted it across the room and smashed it, but I didn't. I just unplugged it. And then I lay in bed with my duvet over my head. And I thought, this is typical of me. I want some physical mediumship. Then I get some physical mediumship and absolutely am so scared. And then I hide from it, which is, poor spirit. And I was really excited, and I messaged my friend and said, oh my God, I had some physical phenomena. This is amazing. Only to realise that it was a side effect of the pills. And I then spent 2 weeks with some of the creepiest stuff. I've had funny little elves. I've had cartoon characters. I've had people walking through my room, and none of it scared me, I have to say. The creepy elf I didn't particularly like, but none of it's been very scary because I've been able to go, okay, I know that this is my imagination. I know that this is a side effect of the pills. I know it's only happening when I wake up. I must be in a dream state. I know that a side effect of the pills are nightmares. So this is just but it is so bloody weird seeing something with your physical eyes and not a flash, not like when you wake up in the night and the pile of clothes on your chair, your laundry chair, looks like a figure in the dark, but when you are watching it for a good long period of time, blinking, and it's still there, it is very disconcerting. And it really made me have a newfound understanding for people that experience night terrors, because I'm not surprised if they are seeing old ladies or spooky, ghosty type things, why they have such a strong belief in something coming to get them. Because I did get so spooked that I ended up going back in with my husband and disturbing him all night, going, oh, and waking him up because I was too scared to sleep alone. So I think it's settled down now. I think it's gone. But really, really interesting to see something and watch it and know that it's a hallucination, but watching the aforementioned hallucination for a long period of time. So again, going back to these questions of, can we actually believe our eyes? I may have told you this story, but when I was running, I got very afraid. I got nearly clipped by a car, and I mean really nearly clipped on a country lane, and it really made me feel anxious. And then I had this thing all the time where I would hear cars coming up behind me, and I would turn around and there'd be no cars there. And it was just paranoia because there's no pavements, and I was running and I'd nearly been hit once and I was scared. And then one day I could really hear a car coming up behind me. And I remember running and looking behind me, and I saw the car, and the car was yellow and it looked a bit like an Austin Allegro from the front, but was longer at the back. And I remember looking at it and then sort of keeping on running and then looking back, and there was no car there. And I realised that my expectation of seeing a car had created a car in that moment. But that, of course, was just a glance. I find it fascinating what our brains can do alongside what spirit can do, and the line. Still dancing that line. Don't worry, I'm not going down that route again. So that's a little update on everything that's been going on with me. I'm really, really excited for season 5. We've got some more phenomenal guests joining. We have got more listener questions, interactions. I'm going to have a live recording of a mediumship demonstration for you all to listen to. So lots and lots of stuff happening. But now I'm finally back and my brain is functioning, and I haven't been ill now for over a month, which is unheard of for me. That's the longest I've had in 2 years. It's very exciting. I've gone through and sorted all my emails and found loads of listener questions, comments. So we're going to spend the rest of this podcast with what you guys have to say before we move on. So get ready. So first up, I've got a message from Susan, and Susan says, I listened to your podcast today where a listener who worked in a care home asked about dementia patients talking to spirit. I visit my mum in a care home. She does not have dementia, but is 96 and has a lot of health issues. She sleeps most of her days now. Twice recently, she has told me that they have visited her. When I ask who, she says to me that I know. So I asked why they visited her, and both times she has the same answer. They visit to see if I'm ready to be a star yet. On another occasion, she told me that they shine a light down to her. She is very lucid and says it is nice when they visit. And I did ask Susan if she would be okay with me sharing that, because I think that's just absolutely amazing. And I wanted to share it with all of you. I love it. Next up, I have an email from Alexis. Hi, Hannah. I recently started listening to your podcast and been following your saga of recent disappointments and discussion of alignment. Sending you a huge hug as you wade through all of this. It sounds like you're right at the precipice of a huge period of growth, but damn it if the first part doesn't hurt really bad. You're not wrong there. I wanted to share that while I'm very sorry you're living it, this conversation is immensely helpful to me right now. I've been on an active spiritual path for about 3 years now, and I'm just at the point where I'm actually beginning to take clients. Here at the beginning of determining what it looks like moving from a personal practice to creating a business, it is invaluable to hear you talk about not losing sight of what my soul's purpose and my true work in this is. It's a message I received directly from Spirit as I started out, and I thought I would share. I hopped on the Spirit work for training via shamanism and practiced trance journey. I achieve a light trance that lets me sink into my imagination and work with Spirit. So after breath work and other prep, I started, and a lunar moth appeared and led me through a dark wood to a cabin. I knew the mentor I was seeking would be inside. And when I knocked on the door, I was very surprised to find a spirit in the form of Hagrid from Harry Potter. Hagrid took me out back where there was a menagerie of large and dangerous animals. He gave me hard work to do. I helped him trim hippogriff claws and calmed a predatory basilisk. In real life, I work with large animals, and he seemed to be showing me that those skills, particularly the ability to remain calm in dangerous situations, would be part of my work. I thanked him after a chat and a cup of tea on a tree stump and returned the way I'd come. I'm both honoured and intimidated by this message. It did show me, though, that any thoughts of trying to play the social media game or create cute products or fixate on what font to put at the top of my brochure are not what Spirit wants me to spend time on. This seems so like the thoughts you're sharing in your Second Alignment podcast. Maybe Spirit wants all of us to get a little more serious and get down to work. I'm not sure, and I'd be curious for your thoughts. If you were getting serious about working for Spirit, what do you think that would look like for you? Thank you for your wonderful podcast and your amazing energy. Of the variety of spiritual podcasts I listen to, I relate to your authentic energy the most. Please keep doing what you're doing, and I wish you all the success. And then you have recommended Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert to me, which I have downloaded to listen to. So thank you so much, Alexis. And I think that that is exactly where I've got to, actually, is that all of this stuff is a distraction. Now, you guys know that I don't believe in, personally, I don't believe that there are evil forces out there trying to keep us away from Spirit. But I do believe that there are humans who are trying to disconnect us from our own power and keep us disconnected from our truth. I just don't believe in demons and things like that. Well, I think this is very, very true in the spiritual realms right now. A lot of spiritual people are finding their stuff being removed or reduced reach-wise on social media. We seem to be reaching the wrong ears. You're getting a lot of abuse. I know a lot of my friends are getting a lot of abuse from online trolls, but not reaching the people who follow them. It's nuts. So there's definitely something happening in the ether. And just like Spirit was saying to me at the beginning of this podcast, actually our work here is to turn away. is to focus on our energy on what feels good. And you're right, that isn't social media. And it isn't. I mean, one of the things that I got caught up in last year was doing a pretty profile grid on Instagram. I mean, what a waste of time. If you go through to my profile grid and you don't like it because it's a hodgepodge, then I'm not the person for you, because I am a hodgepodge. My Instagram profile reflects the essence of who I am as an individual. I'm not beige, I'm not colour coordinated, I don't fit in, and it's chaotic. Deal with it. So absolutely, Alexis. And I think that for me, getting serious about my work with spirit takes me back to doing the job. Not worrying about all the other stuff, just doing the job. And that is where I find myself returned to with a grateful heart. So thank you for messaging. Next up, I have an email from somebody that asked to remain anonymous. So don't worry, I'm not going to share your details. But they did share an amazing bit of evidence that they got from a medium in Australia, and I wanted to share it with you. Since arriving back in Oz, I have always known my partner was with me and my family. He loved it here, and we have just returned from a 6-month visit when he died in June in the UK. In August, I was playing in the garden with my 6-year-old footy-obsessed grandson when he kicked a tennis ball to me, but it went under the car. I was beside the car at the time and I heard a loud clunk. We searched everywhere, but we could not find the ball. For weeks I was obsessed. Where could the ball have gone? I searched every inch of the area and even thought it had got trapped in the underneath of the car. The car was due in for a service the next day, but the garage found nothing. I had booked in for a session with a highly rated medium in Oz in September. My husband totally dominated and came through with some amazing things only I could have known. Just as the session was wrapping up, she said to me, he's given you a headache with the ball. I was absolutely gobsmacked. I had told nobody about it, only my daughter. She said you were kicking it in the garden with your grandson. The ball went under the car and he took it. That one piece of evidence alone has completely convinced me that he's here with me, and my mind is completely blown. And I just wanted to share, you guys, that from somebody who listens but wants to remain anonymous and sent me a beautiful email. But what an incredible piece of work by that medium. I'm quite jealous. Fan-bloody-tastic. And thank you so much, listener, for sharing. Next up on my lovely emails from lovely people, I have an email from Amy. And Amy says, Dear Hannah, I've gone back and listened to all of your podcasts since I found them a few months ago, and I love them. Firstly, I'm so pleased you recently heard from Kate, who told you had changed her son's life. Wow, I can only imagine how you feel. I also imagine you've changed many lives with your messages and teachings from Spirit. You are definitely changing mine. I'm newly finding my spirituality and looking for the bigger picture in life after recently losing my dad, and you're the one spiritual person that I want to hear from and learn from. I listen to you learn and take your teachings into life with me, and thanks to you, I am becoming a happier, more content and grounded person. Secondly, I'm so pleased to hear of your clarity in the Alignment Part 2 episode. This was exactly what I've been thinking as I've been listening. Do what makes you happy. Do what you love. Do what feels right. I'd say not to let your energy be tainted by the low vibrations of social media. You said in one of your early episodes not to feed anything that doesn't serve us as it lowers our vibration. I agree. I don't watch any news, and I've deleted Facebook as it doesn't bring me positivity. You have also explained about our human ego and to be mindful of this as we navigate life on Earth. Does it matter you're not a viral famous medium? It doesn't matter to Spirit. And as long as you are doing what you enjoy and making enough money for your little family, that's all that matters. And if the big events don't feel right to you, then they're not for you, and that's okay. I hope you find your right path and look back in 12 to 24 months in a satisfied place, doing what feels right and aligned, and think, wow, I'm so glad I had those experiences as it led me to where I am again today. Thank you again for the ongoing life lessons, Amy. And thank you for your email, Amy. And you're exactly right. Got caught up in the ego stuff and trying to fit in and trying to be something that doesn't really exist or matter. Interesting, isn't it? Next up, a wonderful email from Dre. Greetings from North Carolina. I very much enjoy your podcast. I do automatic writing, maybe for the last 10 years. It's been a crazy ride. I became a Reiki master to higher my frequency of writing a book with the several generations of my family. I need traffic control in my head to navigate all my ideas. I asked Archangel Raphael about the alignment question and he was eager to respond. Alignment is your intended path to your growth. If you find hardship along the way, you are doing something right. You will find yourself in alignment when you are moving in the direction of your soul's dreams. You will know the path when you keep stumbling and remain pointed in the direction of your heart. The call within yourself is so loud, regardless of reason, you push on. Alignment is the journey your soul set out to achieve in the little steps and all that comes along the way. It refers to the actions, not the ending. There is never an ending, just a continuous journey. He said, Hannah is doing great. She must continue. My journey is complicated in my brain as well. I marvel at your courage and wish my higher self would just push me off the deep end already. I feel like I am closer. Sorry it took me so long after that podcast. I have only listened to part 1. Thank you, Dre. What an incredible gift that you have just given me and all of us listeners with that beautiful message from Archangel Raphael. I am so grateful. And, you know, this is the funny thing about being a medium and a spiritual teacher and all of that stuff. It's just so wonderful to hear the message, Hannah is doing great, she must continue. And I think it's a funny thing because a lot of people, it's that curse, isn't it? If only we could see ourselves as others see us. And I think a lot of people see me and think, well, Hannah's doing really well, so she doesn't need to know that she's doing really well. And actually, I am a human being and I am incredibly vulnerable and I do get in my own way and I do get in my own head, as you guys know. And sometimes what you really want is to know that you're doing all right. So thank you for that message. And I love that. And I do agree. I don't think that an aligned path is an easy one. And I think that was beautiful. Okay, just looking at the clock, but I think we've got time for some more. Next up, I've got another message from Amy, and she says, Hi Hannah, I have a question about our lives and our soul paths. Do you believe some people are so disconnected from spirit, having a human existence, and using their free will without a connection to their higher self, that they won't live out the path journey that they should, i.e. the soul contract that was in place when they incarnated into their human form, and end up having a different experience than planned? It will obviously still be a learning journey for the soul, just not the one that was planned. Or do you believe that what's for us won't pass us, and our souls will somehow guide and intervene with our humanness to align us with who, what, where, how we are meant to be in this lifetime? I'm struggling to find out where I stand in believing that we come here with a soul contract and have the life that is set out for us by the universe, versus we are human, making our own decisions, and life plays out according to us and we can change whatever we want. I also just can't understand that if souls are light and love, and if we at our core essence are our souls, just in a human body, then why is there so much hate, anger, impatience, greed, hurt, trauma in humans in the world? Do our souls decide our human traits, good and bad, for us? Or are these purely constructed by humanist DNA and our souls just having to live in the human they've been given? It all boggles my mind. Oh, Amy, it boggles mine too. And as I always say, I can only tell you what I believe in this moment right now. I do believe that some of us are supposed to be here and completely disconnected from spirit. I believe that is a path and a journey. I believe it is a path for a soul. I believe that it is a path for growth. I don't necessarily believe that they're less evolved than those of us that do believe. I think it's an interesting concept to think about whether actually a more advanced soul would come here and be completely disconnected from their truth and their light. What makes us think that being connected is higher or better somehow? I do believe that there are certain experiences that we come here to have, and that spirit will intervene to make those happen for us, but that we have a lot of free will and choice within that. It's also interesting to think about when spirit come from a place of no time, do they know what we will freely choose when we're here? And then I just can't even... And does that mean that it's a free will and choice if you know that it's already destined that you will make that choice? I think I started thinking about this a lot when I was listening to Dolores Cannon and Jesus and the Essenes, where the life that she was regressed to, when she was talking, well, the man that was talking about Judas, and that Judas was destined to betray Jesus, but it caused him great sorrow. And it was just I was like, so he didn't choose it in the moment. He was destined, he had to, but it's also a choice. How's it a choice if it was predestined? And I don't honestly know, Amy. I honestly can't make it make sense. I think that is one of the ones that I have to chalk up to being too uninvolved a concept for my human brain. I do believe there are certain things that we won't be able to grasp in our meat suits, and I think this is one of them. Because surely if it's free will and choice, then there wouldn't be destiny in that scenario. So there. And I understand your frustration and your struggle with it. And I think everyone listening to this will go, yeah, but what about? And then, oh no, but what about? Because that's what I'm doing. Yes, I believe that there's predestined paths. But yes, I also believe that we have a lot of free will within those. There's just certain aspects, turnings. It's a bit like you can follow one of 25 paths, but at a certain point they will all come out on the same place. And then it will branch off again. And I believe that our souls get to experience all of the paths. So is there a choice when your soul chooses which path it takes? Or is it just, well, everyone else has taken the other 24, so I'll take this one, but it feels like a choice? I don't know. I'm open to thoughts from listeners. Please send them in. It's so fascinating. Now, I have a bit of a different take on the hate, anger, impatience, greed stuff. I personally, at this moment, do not believe that the earth is supposed to evolve. I believe that we are here to experience duality. I think in the spirit world, there is only good, there is only light, there is only love. And there is a limit to how we can grow and what our souls can experience when it is only light and love and joy and happiness and comfort. And so we come here to experience on a smaller scale the discomfort of being in a flesh suit, illnesses. I went for a long dog walk at the weekend. My hips are hurting. I'm 43. I said to my son, this is a watershed moment in my life where I've never had hip pain before, but now I'm groaning when I get in and out of chairs from doing a long walk. Like, it's kind of depressing. But there's something in that. You wouldn't get that in your soul form. You wouldn't get the ache. You wouldn't feel weighed down by your body. You wouldn't get tired because it's infinite energy. So I think we come here for the finite nature of it, the restrictive nature of it, but we also come here for the contrast. And the contrast is dealing with hate, dealing with upset, dealing with pain, dealing with negativity, judgment, greed, impatience, and all of the above. That's part of it. And I don't believe that the earth is supposed to be evolving away from that stuff, because I think that's part of why we came here. If everything was perfect, then we might as well stay in spirit. But that's, not everybody agrees with that, and it's fascinating to think about. And, I could well be wrong. And I'm happy with that, because I liked it better, if I'm honest, when I believed that the world was evolving and I was part of the movement for change. I did. It was nice. I felt like I had a cause, a purpose, a calling. And now it's just me floating around. I mean, I still feel like I have a calling, because I still feel like I'm reaching all of you guys who are on the journey. But do I think that our journey is about changing the earth? No. I mean, look at how many repeating patterns there are in stories throughout the world's history. How many, how is it that we had the atrocities of Hitler and yet Trump is getting voted in? There must be something more at play. We're not learning, we're not evolving. Maybe we're not supposed to, but I could be completely wrong. So that doesn't really help, does it, Amy? I bet you're glad I answered you there. I'll probably give you more questions than you came in with. Okay, I've just looked at the time and realised I'm over. So I'm going to stop there. I've got a few more listener comments and questions that I'm going to cover. And it's great to be back. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope it's given you food for thought. If you've got a comment, something you want to say, please do WhatsApp. Drop me an email, let me know your thoughts. Let's get this conversation going. Let's see what we can do with this podcast in 2024 for everybody's learning and growth. And part of that is in the questions. So please, as always, follow, leave a review, share on your social media, all the boring stuff that really helps me. And I will catch up with you all again soon.